Hi everyone, in this section of video tutorial we will go through Azure Kubernetes Service cluster. So for that, first we'll register the Microsoft Kubernetes and Microsoft Kubernetes configuration resource providers. Then we will deploy Azure Kubernetes Service cluster. After that we will deploy pods into the Kubernetes service clusters, and then finally we'll go through scaling containerized workloads in the Azure Kubernetes service clusters. So let's start that one. So for that, first you need to sign into Azure portal, and then from here you see that Cloud Shell. So click on Cloud Shell, and here is that's the bash. Actually we are going to run PowerShell script, so we are just put PowerShell, click confirm, extend the size. That's good. So just as a note, this is the first time to starting the Cloud Shell, and it can give you a message that no storage mounted message. So in that case you need to select the subscription that you are using for this lab and need to click on create storage. So from this shell pane, so what we are going to do, first register the Microsoft Kubernetes. So register Azure resource provider name is species Microsoft Kubernetes. So you see that it's got Microsoft Kubernetes is registered. Now we are going to do with Microsoft Kubernetes configuration registering. Why it's getting that, I'm not sure. Configuration, that one. So Microsoft Kubernetes configuration is registered. Now we can close this shell window. What we will do now, we will deploy an Azure Kubernetes service cluster. So for that, you can search from here. There are many places that you can search. Get resource, you can search there. All services, you can go there. You can search from the top level, and if you know which section you need to go, you can do that one also. But easy way to search Kubernetes. Then you see that Kubernetes services, so click on that one. Now in this blade, click on create, then create a Kubernetes cluster. So on the basic step, you need to, okay, we are going to create a new resource group for this cluster. So click create new. So Kubernetes cluster resource group, and give a name like that. Then cluster name, so Azure Kubernetes cluster. I prefer East US, where most resources are available. Availability zone, for now I'm going to select none. Then Kubernetes version, I'm just considering the default one. Then node size, you can change the size if you want, because it's coming like default is in DS2-V2. and you can see the price is based on your size. So for this practice session I am going to consider the default one. And then scale method, there is a two option, manual and auto scale. If you put auto scale, it's going to 1 to 5. For now, initial stage I am going to do manual, and putting the node count is minimum, just a single node. Then node polls. So here add node poll, no, that is fine. Enable virtual nodes, that is disabled, that is also fine. So click next access. Now so here you can see resource identity. It has got system assign manage identity and role based access control, that is enabled. Okay, next networking. And network configuration, keep CTL, network policy, kubenet, then network policy is none, and DNS name prefix. So that is fine, you can consider that one. Give a name. Give a name. YMD. DNS name prefix. Next, click on integration. Containerized is none. Container monitoring enable. You can enable containers for more information in addition to the CPU and memory metrics included in a case by default. Okay, that's fine. Azure policy. Click next, advanced. CSR driver. So I'm not going to give any value, default is fine. So click on review and create. Running final validation. Now click on create. So submitting deployment phase. Deployment is in progress. You can see here it will take few minutes, so I'm going to pause here. So deployment is complete. Let's go to resource. And if we go to node polls, you can see one pool is there, nodes, single nodes. Go to workloads. So these are the cube system. Okay, so now we'll deploy an Azure Kubernetes Services cluster using this portal. We have deployed that one. So now what we will do, we'll deploy pods into this Kubernetes service cluster. Pods are the smallest, or if I say that it's a basic deployable objects in Kubernetes. It's represent a single instance of a running process inside the cluster, and it can contain one or more containers. So for that, let's deploy a pod into this Kubernetes cluster. So for that, you see that settings section and node polls. If you click that one, we see that currently there is only one node pool. So now click on this cloud shell, and this time we are going to bash shell. Click confirm. So pass the variable input resource group and our cluster name. Now retrieve the cluster credential. So is it Azure AKS get credential resource group name, so it will get from there a name. So you can, if you enter, expand the window little bit. It's not going up. Okay, going down but not going up. What is happening? Let me open my window again. It's okay. From this side, okay. So execute those command again. Can see overwrite if there, all should be overwrite. Merge the context, that is good. Now what we will do, get the nodes that we know, that we see from the console. Now from the command line, we can just kubectl, we can execute the kubectl get nodes. So you can see this is the cluster node that agent pool, so it's running and status is ready. So you can see that one. So now what we will do, we are going to deploy the Nginx image from the Docker Hub. So for that, we are going to deploy some Kubernetes command, or if I say that kubectl create deployment, and this is the deployment name, and image is Nginx. So it's going to get the image from the Docker Hub and going to deploy this one. So enter. So this is the deployment is created. Now to verify that port has been created, so what we can do, we can just kubectl get ports. You can see that ports is running. Now to identify the state of this deployment, you can do get deployment. So now to make this pod available from the internet so that we can access this one, we have to expose the deployment one. So for that, kubectl expose. This is the deployment, then deployment name, then target port, then type is load balancer. So the service Nginx deployment unsupported. What did we type anything wrong here? Typo. BALS here. Let me type other side and then copy that one. Paste. Oh, I put the dash there. Therefore, okay. So deployment has been exposed. So now we need to verify that one. That whether this public IP address has been provisioned or not. So that what we need to do, ctl get service. Now we see that deployment is in external IP. Import that one. So let's copy that one. And we can see that welcome to Nginx message. So that is good. Now what we'll do, let's, okay, this section is done. Now let's go back. Now we will scale containerized workloads in this Kubernetes service cluster. So for that, first that we have got pod is making that increase to 3. So for that, what we'll do, scale command, keeps it till scale. So here we have done like increase the ports to replicate 3 ports. So scale replicates 3s to get that one. Now I am increasing the nodes. So this is the AKS command and adding that to or extend nodes to 3 nodes. Refresh the page. You can see the 3 nodes now and all of them are ready. So we can verify from the console and we can also verify from here. Kubectl will get nodes. You can see this time that 3 nodes there. Now we'll run the ports to see the ports distribution across the nodes. So now if I go to console, we go to workloads, you can see all the ports here. You can filter here status, if that running, pending, failed or succeeded. Namespace, let's see all the namespace. Then from here, cluster configuration, not pose, nodes. Now let's delete the deployment in the next deployment. So kubectl delete command. So you can see that let's go to workloads, and all those engines accelerated deployed. Where is refresh page there? Refresh. You cannot see that anything with Nginx deployment because we killed that one. So that is very much it to go through with this Kubernetes cluster here. So it's always better to reduce the cost or save some money. You can always, after your practice session, you can clean all the resources. For cleanup resources, it is always better if you put all of them in like what is it, a group, then that's always better. So resource group, and the resource group I created for this one is not here, all resources. Kubernetes Service and resource group. You can click on delete resource group. Okay, just type Kubernetes cluster RG01. So that's in progress. So deleting resource group. So thank you. Thanks for watching.